Head Department of Education in Science and Mathematics, Professor Aishman Goswami ji. Head Department of Education, Professor Rambabu Parik ji. Head Department of Extension Education and faculty members of Institute, dear students and other guests who have joined us through virtual mode. Once again, I welcome all of you in inauguration program of the webinar on awareness among the prospective teachers on environmental issues and concern, which is going to organize between 7th and 8th March at RIE-NCERT through virtual mode under PSC program entitled Development of Science and Mathematics and Environmental Education Theme Park for strengthening school education program and sensitizing school children for generating environmental awareness. The program has been undertaken with following objective: to maintain the environmental education theme park that includes aquatic, desert, and terrestrial ecosystem, a medicinal plant conservatory, a center for demonstration of rainwater harvesting, conservation of water and soil, organic farming, etc. To enable the learners, teachers as facilitators, teacher educators, and visitors to perform simple education activities related to educational issues, to promote environmental awareness through interactive way, and to bring school children, youth, and teachers at a forum where they can discuss their opinion and ideas on environmental issues. To educate teachers, learners, and community of need to conserve and protect the environment. National education policy has emphasized on environmental education through which we should create an environmental conscious society by inculcating the scientific temperament among the children that will be helpful in understanding the science for sustainable development. Looking at the current scenario, there is a dire need to understand the immediate concern like resource management and water conservation. I would like to draw your kind attention on a 3-day workshop held from 2nd to 4th March 2022 at RIE-NCERT in the theme park to sensitize the students toward these issues. A 3-day workshop on development of activities related to various environmental issues was planned from 2nd to 4th March, in which around 130 Eco Club students of our institute have developed 22 activities or models on different themes. With the help of external resource persons and our internal faculty of BESM department, the activities developed in this workshop have been demonstrated and exhibition open for institute and school students. It is believed that the experiences gained during these activities will be helpful in sensitizing the students for environmental issues. Major theme of the workshop is Heal the Nature, and various sub-themes of the workshop are climate change and global warming, organic and conventional farming, waste management, plastic reuse and alternative, space pollution, integrated hydropower plant and conventional water purification, biodiversity and habitat conservation, biodiversity saving, soul of species, reuse, reduce and recycle plastic pollution, environmental pollution and control biomagnification, green energy, environmental pollutions and its control, oil spills and sustainable urban ecology, coral bleaching, algal air purifier, soil conservation, environmental pollution and its control, sustainable development, safe and secure environment for all, green energy, renewable and non-renewable resources, nature and health, environmental education in reference to NEP 2020, integrated approach of science and technology for sustainable future, and wetland conservation. The webinar, which is on awareness among the prospective teachers on environmental issues and concern, is going to organize between 7th and 8th March 2022 in virtual mode on Zoom platform, and also it's live streaming on YouTube channel of RI-NCERT. The main objective of these webinars are to establish a link between environmental science and society, to infuse environmental related issues, uh, infuse environmental related values and awareness among the students for conservation of fauna and flora, water and other natural resources. In this webinar, eminent speaker from various fields will deliver their lecture on hot issues of environment such climate change, global warming, biodiversity, importance of herbal plant, and smart agriculture for food security and environmental sustainability, ecological restoration for biodiversity conservation and human survival, etc. Students will also present their developed activities and models in the webinar. It helps students to understand the issue of environmental consent to play their role significantly. We believe that such type of workshop and webinar will be helpful and fruitful for students to be aware with the issue of environmental consent and to play their role exceptionally outstanding wherever and whenever needed. Also, with the objective of this program to promote students to balance among economic, environmental, and social needs, allowing prosperity of future generation and promote well-being for everyone. This is all about the webinar. Now I make humble request to Honorable Principal Sir to share his views and welcome our chief guest of this session and introduce him. Thank you. Honorable Principal Sir.
Thank you very much, Professor O.P. Minaji. Honorable Chief Guest, Professor Keshi Sharma, former Vice Chancellor, MDS University. Respected Professor Rajesh Mesh, Dean of Instruction. Respected Professor Nagendra Singh, Dean Research. All head of the departments, Organizing Secretary Dr. O.P. Meena and Co-Organizing Secretary Dr. Ved Prakash ji, and Professor P.K. Chaurasia, Head DESM Department, and other faculty member of the Institute, and other resource person, and dear students. We are very fortunate to have Professor Sharma as the Honorable Chief Guest for today's inaugural session of this 2 days webinar on environmental issues and concerns. Sir, we welcome you and other joined with this webinar through virtual mode. We are very lucky and fortunate that you have given your consent to be the chief guest of this seminar. Actually, we have been trying to invite you since long. And now this time we are successful that you have given us your consent. Let me formally introduce our chief guest, Professor Keshi Sharma. Professor Keshi Sharma, friends, you all are aware that he was the former Vice Chancellor of MDS University, Dean School of Earth Science, Central University, Rajasthan, Dean Academics, Central University, Rajasthan, Dean Students Welfare, Central University, Rajasthan, Head of the Departments, Environmental Sciences, Central University, Rajasthan, then Registrar in charge of Central University, Rajasthan, former Professor and Head Department of Environmental Sciences, MDS University, Ajmer, and he was the Research Director in MDS University, Ajmer also, and he graced the position of Dean Faculty of Science, MDS University, Ajmer, and he was also Chairman, Sports Board of MDS University, and he retired on 30th June 2015 from the post of Professor Head of the Department, Dean, School of Earth Science, Central University, Ajmer. Sir, we welcome you and we are really grateful to you that you are the part of today's inaugural session in spite of your extremely busy schedule. Professor Sharma has held many prestigious posts in government bodies such as Environmental Appraisal Committee of Rajasthan, Ministry of Education Welfare, Government of India, Member Rajasthan State Environment and Health Board, Peer Team Chairperson Panel, NEC, Commission on Scientific and Technological Term, and Chairperson, Lake Registration Technical Committee, Member Core Committee of Ajmer Smart City. He did his post-graduation MSc in botany with specialization ecology in 1972 from the University of Rajasthan, Jaipur, and did PhD in botany in 1980, full-time UGC fellow, 1975 to 1978, again from University of Rajasthan, Jaipur. He was associated with the training pertaining to research data analysis at Dotum Technology USA in 1996. Professor Sharma has 45 years of teaching experience in botany, ecology and environmental science at Day-1 College, Ajmer, Government College of Rajasthan at Bharatpur, Dholpur, Nagaur, Ajmer, MDS University, Ajmer, and then finally Central University of Rajasthan. He has 40 years of research experience, and under his able guidance and supervision, 35 candidates completed his PhD and 40 candidates completed his Master of Philosophy under his able supervision. He participated in 80 national and international conference, seminar, workshop, etc., and published more than 100 research papers in national and international journal. Professor Sharma is also closely associated with the book writing work, and he has written number of book on botany and environmental education. And his other contributions are he established Environmental Science Department as founder professor and head in MDS University, Ajmer. Again, he established Environmental Science Department as founder professor and head in Central University of Rajasthan. Developed Memorandum of Understanding and collaboration with Swedish Meteorological and Hydrological Institute, Sweden, Asian Institute of Technology, Thailand, Water Resource University, Vietnam, and many others. He visited a large number of foreign countries, including German, USA, Singapore, Spain, UK, China, Thailand, Nepal. And as far as US is concerned, I heard that he had visited US more than 11 times. He was the fellow of Indian Association of Environmental Management, Indian Institute of Ecology, and International Society of Environmental Science. Actually, if I want to introduce Professor Sharma fully, I need hours and hours. And by this introduction, you all are aware now that he is a personality who has really worked in this environmental education. So without taking much time, we would like to listen him, and I now request him to kindly inaugurate the webinar and deliver your inaugural address. Professor Keshi Sharma ji, former Vice Chancellor, MDS University. Friends, for your kind information, in addition to Professor Sharma, we are having K.K. Sharma, former Vice Chancellor, MDS University, as an expert, Professor N.K. Pandit, from University of Rajasthan, Jaipur, Professor Rajesh Kumar, Central University, Rajasthan, Professor Anil Kumar Shagnani, Maharaja Ganga Singh University, Bikaner, Dr. Pranav Pal, Wild Institute of India, Dehradun, Dr. Shivlal, Senior Scientist, Horticulture, Tabiji Ajmer, and Sri N.K. Gupta, Herbal Expert, New Delhi. Friends, these are the experts which will deliberate in different sessions, and these sessions are also followed by the session in which our students, they will make their presentation pertaining to the environmental concern and issues. As Dr. Meena has rightly pointed out that before conducting this 2 days webinar, we have organized a workshop, 3-day workshop in our environmental education theme park, where a student under the guidance of faculty members and external resource person, they developed a lot of activities and gained a very rich experience. And during the presentation, they will reflect upon the experience, and that is what we want, so that they will be aware. Now I request Professor Sharma ji to kindly deliberate on the topic. Professor Sharma. Thank you, sir. May I request Professor Keshi Sharma ji to kindly inaugurate the webinar and deliver your inaugural address. Professor Sharma. Sir, we are audible. Professor Sharma sir, Keshi Sharma ji. Okay, Meena ji, I think there is some technical problem.
हेलो
हाँ सर, अभी आपकी आवाज आ रही है सर.
आवाज आ रही है. ओके, थैंक यू. सो गुड मॉर्निंग यू ऑल, एंड फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आई वुड लाइक टू give my thanks to esteemed and very respected Professor S.V. Sharma ji, Principal, Regional College of Ajmer, Regional Institute of Education Ajmer, Professor Rajesh Mishra ji, Dean, Professor Nagendra Singh, Dean, Professor Chaurasya ji, and Dr. O.P. Meena ji, who is the coordinator and organizer of this program, Dr. V.P. Arya, who is the coordinator, co-organizer of this program, my teachers, my dear students, and all participants. First of all, I would like to congratulate you that you arranged or you have organized this program on environmental awareness. I want to tell you that a number of universities are there, maybe more than 1,000 universities are there, more than 42,000 colleges are there. But, you know, awareness programs are being organized by Regional Institute of Education all over the country, and also under the auspices of NCERT. Environmental education is the most important area. You know that researches are going on throughout the country and abroad also. I have visited a number of organizations a very high-ranking research is going on, climate change and other issues of environment. But still, in India, we are lacking for the environmental awareness. Of course, we are in colleges, in the universities, we know about the environment, but our rural areas are unaware of, they are not aware of the environmental issues so far. So a lot of work has to be done on environmental awareness. I would also like to congratulate you that you have invited very high-ranking experts in this particular program, and they belong to the Rajasthan, and many of they are my friends. Professor Keshi Sharma, he was my colleague in MDS University, Vice Chancellor, and Professor M.K. Pandit from Rajasthan University. He's a very good friend of mine. Professor Rajesh Kumar from Central University of Rajasthan. He's a very good friend of mine. Professor Anil Changani in Ganga Singh University, Bikaner. He is also the expert in the wildlife and other areas of environmental science. Also, you have invited the wildlife expert from a very high-ranking institute, that the Wildlife Institute, Dehradun. I have visited this institute, and they are doing a wonderful work and recognized throughout the world. Dr. Pranab Palji, you have invited Dr. Sivpal, ICAR scientist from Tabizi, and you know that Tabizi is another institute under the ICR that doing a wonderful work in the seeds and spices particularly. And Dr. N.K. Gupta, herbal expert. There is a lot of, importance of herbs in the environmental management and the ecological services of for the human beings. So today, for this particular seminar, I have selected a very light topic, that is the environmental awareness, particularly ecosystem analysis, ecosystem restoration, or you can say the ecosystem health. And I would like to share some of my information, some of the slides that I have prepared for this particular seminar. So I would like to share some of them. You know that, yeah, now you must be aware about this particular book. This is Silent Spring, written by Raquel Carson. Raquel Carson was a marine biologist from United States of America, and this book has, did a blunders, the revolution in the environmental awareness in mid of the last centuries, about 1962. This book was appeared in 1962, written by Raquel Carson. What content this book has? That a number of information that in many species of plants and the animals, particularly animals, has been disappeared during the last 50 years or 40 years in United States, in America. And also this book has certain information that pesticides is, causing the disease in the human beings and also the cancer. So it was a very revolutionary book, and it was a very tension to the minds of the Americans that there is a lot of information in this book, and we are not safe, particularly from the herbicides, because the herbicides were being used very aggressively in United States and other parts of the world. And, at that time, in USA, particularly the pesticide industry was at the peak. They are producing the pesticide, different kind of pesticides, in herbicides, which are very harmful for the human beings, human health. So all the, there is a downfall because of this book. There is a downfall in the production. And, there is a very great lobby of the herbicide industry people, and they went against this lady in the court, and finally she won it. And government has the negotiations with this particular industries that you can't run these industries, particularly some of the herbicide like DDT, you can open these in the other countries. So you can't, produce this particular pesticide in this country, you go in other countries. So again, this lady was fought because she was very poor, and the herbal lobby and the pesticide lobby was very, very strong. But finally, she won in the court, Supreme Court, and some of the industries were closed there. So environmental awareness particularly started from 1962 when this book was appeared. Now, what are the approaches? Because people, they knew that some of the species which are very, very important from economic value point of view. So they started saving those and regeneration of these species, and try to save these species from the nature by way of ex situ cultivation or in situ cultivation and other biotechnical approaches. And also they were concerned about the threatened and endangered species of certain animals and the plants, that these species should not go, because these are very, very useful and they are very endangered other kind of species. So they started protecting that area where these species are going or where these animals are inhabitant. They started protecting these areas. But finally, the scientists, they thought that it is not enough to protect the area, because the species, they also require the environment. They also require the soil. They also require the water and the minerals and the air and all that. So we have to save the ecosystem. We have to maintain the health of the ecosystem. That is more important. And therefore, United Nations has declared the decade 2021 to 2030 as ecosystem restoration decade. That is very, very important. Now we are running in this particular decade, and the stress is there on the ecosystem restoration approaches. So ecosystem health, that is very, very important for human beings. So, what is the ecosystem health? As you know, that there is a body, we have the body, and the health of our body or health of ours is very, very important. We have different parts, and every part is important for our lively, for our life. Every part is important. If any part is destroyed or non-functioning, then it is a very dangerous to the human body. Likewise, ecosystem has also been treated as a living object. It is also a living, because it has different parts. And what are these parts? That the human body, the human beings, that is one part, plants, another component, animals, then microbes, then the air, the soil, and the water, and physical conditions. All these are the different parts of the ecosystem. And, we teach our students that ecosystem is a biotic and abiotic interaction. It is the interaction between biotic and abiotic environment. And the nature has given the perfect cycling of the nutrients and the energy flow. What are the two things important in ecosystem? It is also there in the human body. What are these? That the cycling of the minerals and energy flow. And the same is applied to the human body also. So we have to restore, we have to safeguard the health of the ecosystem anyhow. Now, what is there? What is difficulty with the health? Or what are the things which are deteriorating the health of the ecosystem? For example, one component, that is the human body. or the human beings. In human beings, you know that in human beings, there is a population explosion. Population explosion is the main cause of the ecosystem degradation. I tell you why. Because there is a competition, and competition that, you know, disease and the other social elements are there. The second part is the plants. You know, the diversity of the plants is imbalancing. You want one plant which is very important, the other plant are neglected. So there is an imbalance in the diversity, in the biological diversity. And same thing is there in the animal diversity also. Diversity imbalances are there. And the micro component, what is it facing? That is the genome manipulation. Genome manipulation, इसका मतलब genome manipulation का मतलब है कि different genes are combined together and they form a new genome. Likewise, you have seen in the corona also. What is this corona? Because some harmful genes have been added to some other genes, and there are new species of the viruses that appear, which is very, very harmful. So this is another component which has been distributed. Then other, the abiotic component, air. What is the bad thing in the air? That the greenhouse gases are there, the pollutants are mixing in the air. In the soil component, chemicals, land use, these are other elements with the soil component, because a lot of chemicals has been spraying in the agriculture field or in different areas. So these chemicals mix in the soil, and they are incorporated in our crops, and we take it. And water, over exploitation of water is there. दुनिया में पानी की इतनी कमी हो रही है, और अब कह रहे हैं कि थर्ड वर्ल्ड वॉर, अभी यूक्रेन और यूएसएसआर का नहीं, थर्ड वर्ल्ड होगा तो वो वाटर के लिए होगा. दिस हैज बीन you know, forecasted by many scientists. Or the next is the physical conditions of the physical component. This is also, you know, degraded because of the high temperature, because of the cyclones, like that. तो यहाँ पर आप देखते हैं कि इकोसिस्टम की बॉडी के सभी पार्ट्स जो कि नेचर ने हमको दिए थे, जो कि बहुत ही आपस में उनमें बैलेंस था, गैसियस एक्सचेंज जो था, प्योर एयर थी, प्योर वाटर था, हम ले रहे थे, वापस उनको नेचर में दे रहे थे. तो इकोसिस्टम की जो जितने भी कनेक्शंस हैं, जितने भी फाइब्रिक्स हैं, वो सारे के सारे टूट गए, और सारे के सारे कंपोनेंट्स में ये सारी दिक्कतें हो गई, इकोसिस्टम की हेल्थ खराब हो गई. और इसका मेन कारण है ह्यूमन पॉपुलेशन. जब पॉपुलेशन ज़्यादा होती है तो कंजप्शन होता है, कंजप्शन ज़्यादा होता है तो रिसोर्सेज के ऊपर प्रेशर आता है, और हैबिटेट लॉस, मतलब जितने भी सारे देखिए इम्पोर्टेंट हैबिटेट्स हैं, हमारी फॉरेस्ट है या अदर इकोसिस्टम, वाटर इकोसिस्टम, सारे के सारे जो है वो उनमें सब गड़बड़ होगी. और जब हैबिटेट लॉस होता है तो दूसरी स्पीसीज आ जाती है वहाँ पर, जिनको हम अपॉर्चुनिस्ट कहते हैं. जहाँ एरिया खाली हुआ, अपॉर्चुनिस्ट स्पीसीज आ गई, पोल्यूशन हो गया, क्लाइमेट चेंज. तो ये सारे के सारे जो है, ये जितने भी एलिमेंट्स हैं, जितने भी डिग्रेडेटिव फैक्टर्स हैं, ये रिसोर्स के एक्सप्लॉइटेशन के कारण होते हैं. और फिर ये रिजल्ट होता है बायोडाइवर्सिटी लॉस है, जीन्स, स्पीसीज, कम्युनिटी, इकोसिस्टम में डिग्रेडेशन होता है, और सारे के सारे जो है निगेटिव एस्पेक्ट और निगेटिव चेंजेस आर देयर इन द इकोसिस्टम. Scientists, they have also environment, they have also pointed out that we need an ecosystem which is stable and resilient stresses. क्योंकि स्ट्रेसेस तो आते रहते हैं, कभी क्लाइमेट चेंज हो गया, कभी हाई टेम्परेचर हो गया, कभी कुछ हो गया, कभी पोल्यूशन हो गया. उसमें हर इकोसिस्टम को रजिस्ट करना चाहिए. It should be very resilient. It should bear the stresses so the ecosystem health is maintained. And this stability is not for, you know, 2-3 years or 5 years or 10 years, but it should be sustainable for long time. हमेशा, क्योंकि आदमी तो हमेशा रहेगा या एनिमल्स भी हमेशा रहेंगे, इकोसिस्टम हमेशा चलना चाहिए. It should be sustainable for longer and longer time, and so that it will provide the ecological services. What are the ecological services? That I will point out later on. Now, ultimately, what are the issues and concerns regarding the ecosystem? देखिए, सबसे ऊपर मैंने population लिखा है. Population is the main reason. फिर urbanization, temperature, greenhouse gases, climate change, hydrological cycle disturbances, biological invasions, दूसरी स्पीसीज जो है नई नई जगह पर आ जाती है, और बायोलॉजिकल हमारी जो इंडिजिनस स्पीसीज वो खत्म हो रही है, एंड एनर्जी रिक्वायरमेंट वो भी बढ़ गया, इंडस्ट्रियल प्रोडक्शन वो भी बढ़ना पड़ा क्योंकि पॉपुलेशन बढ़ गई तो हर एरिया में आपको इंडस्ट्री लगानी पड़ेगी और उनको प्रोडक्शन बढ़ाना पड़ेगा. तो ये सारे के सारे देखिए फैक्टर्स ये इंक्रीज हो रहे हैं. दे आर इंक्रीजिंग, पॉपुलेशन इंक्रीजिंग, अर्बनाइजेशन इंक्रीजिंग, temperature increasing, greenhouses increasing, hydrological disturbances increasing, biological invasion increasing, energy requirement increasing. आप ये देखते हैं कि शुरू में हम जब बच्चे थे तो घर में 1-2 बल्ब होते थे, कोई एनर्जी की ज्यादा आवश्यकता नहीं होती थी, वो भी 2-4 घंटे चलता था. और आज क्या है कि आपके घर में इतनी एनर्जी की रिक्वायरमेंट है, गाड़ी है, पेट्रोल है या स्कूटर है, उसमें आपको एनर्जी चाहिए पेट्रोल, या घरों में जो है इलेक्ट्रिसिटी की जो रिक्वायरमेंट है, आपके घर में फ्रिज भी है, आपके घर में कंप्यूटर भी है, आपके घर में दूसरे इक्विपमेंट्स भी हैं, और हर कमरे में 2-2, 3-3 लाइटें होती हैं. तो एनर्जी की रिक्वायरमेंट इतनी ज्यादा बढ़ गई है, एंड वी आर अनेबल टू फाइंड आउट द appropriate energy resources that can sufficient for the increasing population. Of course, the efforts are being made to find out the alternative sources of energy, ultimately the solar energy or the hydro energy. ये सारी की सारी जो है ये आगे बढ़ने वाली हैं, और इंडस्ट्रियल प्रोडक्शन भी बढ़ गया. तो सारे के सारे कंसर्निंग इश्यूज हैं जो कि बहुत ही. Now you see here the population explosion. The population explosion, it was 6.5 in 2006. And in 2025, it will be 7.9 billions. And in 2050, it will be 9.4 billion. So it will be very difficult to support this kind of population or this number of population in times to come. And, India is also making efforts to reduce the population and to control the population, like the China has done by one issue policy. But now they have realized that it should be the 2 children population in each family. So in United States, the population growth is 0.6. It is equal to the China, but we are still, we are making efforts for the population control. Now, in this diagram, I have tried to show that in the last 500 years, the population which was increasing during the last 500 years, it has increased during the recent times, that you can say in 1 century. So this population explosion is also the reason of the ecological degradation or the ecosystem degradation. Now, this slide shows that the carrying capacity, every habitat has its own carrying capacity. Carrying capacity means how the population can be survive perfectly in this particular area. Carrying capacity for the earth, for example, what is the quantity of the resources, like the forest, like the agricultural land, like the water bodies. So all kind of the resources that is sufficient for a particular population, and it is 5+ billion population, which was there in 1987. यानी कि 1987 में जो पॉपुलेशन थी उसके लिए सफिशिएंट था, उसके लिए बराबर था, जितने भी अपने पास रिसोर्सेज हैं पूरी अर्थ के ऊपर, दे आर सफिशिएंट फॉर दैट पॉपुलेशन. नाउ बियॉन्ड दैट, देखिए ये पॉपुलेशन 1987 से जो ऊपर जा रही है ना, ये दिस इज एक्स्ट्रा, दैट इज not appropriate for the resources we have so far. तो resources हमारे पास कम हो गए और population ये ज्यादा बढ़ती गई. And this is the carrying capacity. इतना जो है, जो हमारी अर्थ है वो सपोर्ट कर सकती है population को. The footprint of the per person, but it is going above. So this is also an alarming stage. We have very less water on the earth. The potable water, you can say that it is 2.5% of fresh water is there. Otherwise, other water is not, 87.5% of water that cannot be utilized. Only 2.5% water that you can say it is a fresh water. And it's a 3/4 जो water है, that is in the form of glaciers and ice form, in the ice form, that cannot be utilized also. So you see here that hardly, 0.70, 0.75 or 0.1%, you can say, 1% water available in the earth for the population. So water scarcity is there that we have to face in the times to come. Now, there are water resources, no doubt, but these are not well maintained so far. Particularly in the urban areas, you have seen, this is the picture of Anasagar. It is near your institute. So here, there was a time that the entire, the sediment or the entire area was used for the agriculture purpose. There are, addition of number of pesticides, the herbicide and the chemicals and the fertilizers. So ultimately, this water, this lake has been destroyed. But now there is a maintained by the government. Now water is there. So this is the picture of, I think, a few years back. Now, in this water body, particularly, this is the example of the Anasagar Lake, that Singhada, this is the Singhada ki kheti hai puri. In this particular agriculture or in this particular produce, in production, there's a lot of spraying of the DDT powder. DDT is a pesticide. It is very, very harmful. Now it has been banned. And this DDT that enter in the fruits of Singhada, right? Trapa, the botanical name is Trapa basmosa. So that has been included in this, and we eat the fruits and the pesticide goes in our body. And there is a pesticide, a magazine related to the pesticide appearing from United States. And this picture has been taken from that magazine, and it shows that every part of the body is, every part of the body is deteriorated, or the pesticides are harmful for every system, every part of the body, and ultimately it causes cancer also. So a number of reports has been done right from Raquel Carson to the recent times. And in some of the countries, the DDT and other pesticide has been banned because it came at a later stage that the pesticide which are spraying in our fields, these are very, very harmful. Now, here, there are very important water bodies in our country. Particularly in Rajasthan, there are two Ramsar sites. One is the Sambar Lake and other is the Kevla Dev National Park. Why these are so important? Because it is the inland water body and it has a very high concentration, more than the water of the sea. It has very high concentration of salts. And because of the extraction of the salt, this lake has also been destroyed by extraction of salt. One of my students did PhD on Sambar Lake restoration. So in 1993, the salt pan area was 6.72 kilometers square. And in 2015, he submitted his thesis in 2015, it was about 40. So these water bodies of national international importance has also been deteriorated because of the pesticide and other things. This is the salt extraction by, salt refining by Hindustan Salt Limited, a very big project, that extract the salt, and the salts are there in the private agriculture fields also. The salt is extracted. They take water from the groundwater and it will be uplifted and the salt is concentrated. So water table has also go down, and number of waterfall species or the birds, these are also facing this difficulty. Biological diversity and invasions. We had a project of Department of Space through National Remote Agencies, Hyderabad. One of my friends is there, so I was also associated with them. And we have recognized a number of threatened and endangered species in the Aravallis ranges. And some of these are, this is the list. It's a long list, but these are some of the important species. Commiphora vitae, Caligonum polygonidis. This picture is from the Caligonum polygonidis. This is Gartumba. This is very poisonous if you take, but some animals, they can take it, like camels and all that. Pedalium murex. This is another plant which is बड़ा घोकरू जिसको बोलते हैं, गोंद के लड्डू वगैरह बना के खाते हैं. Ephedra ciliata, Wrightia tinctoria, Citrullus cola, a number of plants. I'm not going to the details, but we have identified that some of the species, they are very, very under the threat and because of various pressures. These are pictures of this some endangered species, Ephedra ciliata. Ephedra is a plant, basically I am a botanist, so I give the examples of the plants, Ephedra is a plant which is occurring in natural habitats in Rajasthan. And this is a gymnosperm. The gymnospermic species are there in the northern region in the Himalayas. Ephedra is also there, but in the desert, this is only the plant which is occurring in the desert. That is the Ephedra. This is the Ephedra plant. And this is also under the pressure nowadays. Some of the people, I remember, they came from Delhi University and they made contact with me through their professor, and you go to Dr. Sharma, he will make available these species. But I just tell them not the real habitat. Real habitat is in the Mangalyavas mountain, that side. I just told them that there is only one plant there, but you please don't destroy it. Take a very small amount and you go. So this is also under the threat. The researches are going on. This is this plant is the Marwa teak, Ticomel undulata. Marwa teak की खास बात ये है कि इसके फूल तो बहुत सुंदर होते हैं. देखिए कितने अजीब बात है. बहुत beautiful flowers are there, लेकिन कोई smell नहीं होती है. Beauty and no smell. This is curse of the nature with this plant. But the wood is very, very quality wood. This is again the Commiphora vitae, Google जिसको बोलते हैं. तो Google का भी plant. One of my student, he went to Germany and he discovered about 23 alkaloids, active principle in this. So far, only 3 were known in India, but he, worked there in Germany and now he's in the United States, working in other genetic manipulations of the plants. So this is a very, very important plant, and the disease heart, medicine from the heart is extracted from this plant. This is a very unique plant. This is Ophioglossum, Ophioglossum is a plant which is occurring near the Anasaga Lake, in the side of the Regional Institute of Education, in your institute, near the institute. Inside your institute also, there was a time in 1972, 1972 or 1975, we collected this plant from nearby your institute, Regional Institute of Education. At that time, it was Regional College of Education. So what is the specialty of this plant? This plant is a very small plant, very, very small plant. But the chromosome number is highest in the plant kingdom, highest chromosome number. This is a unique plant. The chromosome number is 1266, like that. So the number is very high, and it is a matter of research that a small plant having such a high number of chromosomes. So Dr. B.L. Yadav, he did research on this, my friend. Another plant, this plant looks like the onion plant, but it is not onion. This is the Isoetes. Isoetes, it was also collected near the Anna Sagar Lake. But today, you will not find this plant there. So this is also, disappeared because of the encroachment and the urbanization of the things. So late Professor C.B. Gana, who was the Vice Chancellor of Ganga Singh University, Bikaner also. So he did research on this plant. He submitted the PhD. It is a very unique plant. There are certain invasive species. Invasive species are those which are from other nations, from other habitats, not indigenous to this particular country, in our country. They are, exotic plants, you can say. So invasive plants are very, very notorious because of their, invasion. Our indigenous important species of the medicinal importance, other kind of species, which are very, very important, have been disappeared totally. And 120 species reported from India. One of my friend, Dr. Reddy from Hyderabad, from NRSC, he reported, he also published a book on invasive plant of India. So a number of species are there, and because of that, because these invasive plants have very, very, powerful genome, and it will not allow to grow the other species. For example, Prosopis chilensis, जिसको हम बोलते हैं ये बल्लायती बबूल, ये क्या है, इसमें जो है ये सारी के सारी वेजिटेशन को खत्म कर दिया है इसने. यूकलिप्टस जैसे, यूकलिप्टस आपके यहाँ कैंपस में भी काफी है, इसने भी बहुत सारी स्पीसीज को है. लेंटाना कैमरा इसने भी खत्म कर दिया. पार्थिनियम स्ट्रोफोरस, ये किसी जमाने में जो अपने जब फूड शॉर्टेज हुई थी इंडिया में इन मिड ऑफ द लास्ट सेंचुरी, तब ये क्या है कि उस वक्त जो है ये रिपोर्ट हुआ था, बिकॉज इट केम अलोंग विद द PL40, जो वीट वहां से इंपोर्ट किया था, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ फूड की शॉर्टेज हो गई थी, अमेरिका से फूड आया था, उसके साथ इसके बीज आ गए. और अब पूरे इंडिया में आप कहीं भी जो है इसको पार्थेनियम वगैरह को देख लो आप. इसी तरह से और भी कई स्पीसीज हैं. देयर आर नंबर ऑफ स्पीसीज दिस हैज आल्सो डिस्ट्रॉयड आवर लोकल वेजिटेशन, इंडिजिनस प्लांट. ये देखिए लेंटाना कैमरा है. अगर आप माउंट आबू कभी गए हैं तो माउंट आबू में आपको पूरा पहाड़ जो है इससे कवर मिलेगा. एंटायर लैंडस्केप इज कवर्ड बाय दिस पर्टिकुलर प्लांट. And there was a time when I was a student in 1970, we used to go there for the plant collection and for other things. So we found that there was a very dense forest. Mount Abu was a very dense forest, but nowadays you go there and you will find this Lantana camera. It is an invasive plant species from America. So, and it has destroyed a number of plant species in our area. So this is also concern for the environmentalists. This is water hyacinth. किसी जमाने में हमने देखा कि एक भी इसका जो है प्लांट जो है आना सागर में नहीं था. But nowadays, I don't know why it has been appeared there and how it has been brought here. It was there in Udaipur and the Bharatpur, some water bodies, but it was not there in Ajmer. This is also very. Hello. So all these species, they are very harmful. So once there is a climate change, the disappearance of the invasion of the species, the new species are coming. This was the report from the Nature, a very high-ranking journal of our time. So, the number of, frost days, these are decreasing. Frost days means the climate change is there. So there is a temperature, so frost is decreasing. And number of species, exotic plant is increasing. Land use, पूरे फॉरेस्ट को हमने काट दिया, एग्रीकल्चर लैंड बना ली, इससे भी बहुत नुकसान हुआ है और काफी जो है एरिया जो है फॉरेस्ट के, अब धीरे धीरे क्या है कि फॉरेस्ट को जो हम फॉरेस्ट कवर को हम इंक्रीज करने लगे हैं इन रिसेंट टाइम्स, एंड द गवर्नमेंट इज आल्सो सिंसियर टू प्रोटेक्ट द फॉरेस्ट, बट अर्लियर यू नो देयर वाज ए devastated and very reduced cover of the forest. One of my students, he did work on the pesticide in vegetables in the agriculture fields, and he reported a number of, pesticide concentration, very high concentration in tomato, brinjal, and some okras, cauliflower, brinjal. तो ये सारे के सारे उसने किए और उसमें ये पता लगा कि इतने हाई कंसंट्रेशन है, डेफिनेटली इट विल कॉज सम काइंड ऑफ डिजीज in the human body. And you might have gone through some newspaper also that what are the effect of the pesticide in the human body. Mining activities are also there in Rajasthan, particularly in the Aravallis. And what is, the impact of the mining activities? Because you see here, these are the mining areas. 1 inch of the upper layer, which is very, very fertile, very fertile layer. It requires, I think, thousands of years to form the soil. Soil जो 2-4 दिन में या 1-2 साल में नहीं बनती है. It requires thousands of years. और इस 1 इंच soil को हम 1 मिनट के अंदर खत्म कर देते हैं. This is a very fertile soil. तो जितने हम mining activity ज्यादा करेंगे, उतने ही हमारे vegetation loss होगा. The vegetation will be reduced, and there is other consequences also of the mining areas. Climate change is another, because you have other experts on the climate change and you will learn more, but just a glimpse of the climate change and its effect. And it has been reported that these 10 countries will be facing the problem of the climate change, and they are very, very sensitive places. Japan, Philippines, Germany, Madagascar, and India also. India is also in the list of the countries facing the climate change effects in times to come. So we have to be very careful about the climate change. This is the graph showing the concentration of the carbon dioxide. That carbon dioxide that goes, I think the present data I can say that is more than 400 ppm. 400 ppm, that is very, very harmful, and that, rise the temperature. More the addition of the carbon dioxide in the air, that will cause high temperature. The temperature during the last 130 years, that could increase 0.6 degrees centigrade. Now, during the last 30 years, up to, I think, 2000, up to 2000, in 30 years, the increase in temperature was 0.6 degrees centigrade. So you can imagine, and what will be there in the future also. So these are certain models through which it has been assessed that what is the temperature in coming years, that maybe up to 2.5 degrees centigrade or even 5 degrees centigrade by the end of the century. So we cannot tolerate the increase of 5 degrees centigrade from the present one. That is very, very harmful and very, devastated consequences we have to face. So climate change is a, area, or it is burning area throughout the world. The scientists are busy to how we can reduce the climate change, impact of the climate change by the adaptation of the habitat or by kind of reducing the carbon dioxide gases. Very, negotiations and the conferences are being done. There is a body, intergovernmental organization on climate change, that is looking after this. International panel on the climate change. They are collecting the data and resulting on analysis also there. In Rajasthan also, you'll find the changes in the temperature and the this rainfall also. Temperature, both rainfall and temperature, the pattern will be changed. The area which has low temperature will show high temperature in times to come. The area having the low rainfall, there will be high rainfall areas in times to come. It has been reported by the scientists for the Rajasthan. And because of the climate change, some of the species, they are displaced. The research has been done on the species, animal and plant both, in the European countries, and they have found that their displacement has been done. The species which are at the lower elevations, they go to the higher because of the melting of the ice and increased temperature. This is also the report of the Nature in 2002. A number of species have been displaced in the from the original areas. And what are the ecological services if if you don't want to maintain the health, or the health of the ecosystem is disturbed and not good, then it is the impact of the ecological services. That give one example, the cost of a tree. The tree is not for the fuel or for the furniture, for the wood. These are the direct benefits of the trees. But if you calculate the oxygen it gives, fertilizers to soil, erosion check, ये जो कितना करते हैं, water cycling करते हैं, wildlife habitat. Tree is a wildlife habitat. Number of birds, they live in the trees, trunks or tree canopies. Toxic gases moderation, toxic gases का जो है वो उनको खत्म करती हैं. तो इन सारे के सारे benefits का अगर हम cost calculate करें, one scientist from United States has calculated the cost of one tree that comes up to 19,062 something. The cost is 14 crore rupees. One tree costs about the 14 crore. 14 crore means that the ecological service of the vegetation or the trees is so much. And if you calculate the ecological services of all vegetation or all the ecosystem that they provide very benefit to the human being, that cost comes about 40 trillion per year. $40 trillion. You know that the total GNP of all the countries is less than the 40 trillion years. So this is the importance of the ecosystems. So we have to protect the ecosystem. We have to get the benefit of the ecosystem if we maintain them properly, or if the ecosystem health is very good, then we can get the benefits. And here I tell about, I mention about what are the priorities for the sustainable life. Priorities are population को कम करना है, water को conserve करना है, water को ढंग से use करना है. We have to go for the alternative sources of energy. We have to reduce the greenhouse gases. ये सारी के सारी priorities हैं. Biodiversity, और सबसे important, particularly for our country, that is the environmental education and ethics. That work the NCERT is doing, that you are doing in your institute, that is the most important. जब तक हम लोगों को educate नहीं करेंगे, उनके ethics नहीं होंगे environment के प्रति, तब तक हम environment को नहीं बचा सकते. और there are technologies how to save the environment, or particularly the water component. और इसमें आपने नाम सुना होगा श्री राजेंद्र सिंह जी का, डॉक्टर राजेंद्र सिंह, who came to our university in 2012 in a international workshop we organized in Department of Environmental Science there. So I told him, he also came here last week, I think in 4th of this March, in a University Foundation Day. After 10 years, he again visited this university. And when he came in 2012, I told him that we can save the water by WATER. तो उन्होंने कहा कि what is WATER? That is water. मैंने कहा it gives the message how to conserve them. W means वेस्टेज मिनिमाइजेशन, पानी का वेस्ट कम से कम करें। ए मीन्स आर्टिफिशियल रिचार्ज, जो कि राजेंद्र सिंह जी कर रहे हैं ऑलरेडी, एंड ही हैज गिवन ए मॉडल throughout the world that we have to go for this artificial recharge, traditional technologies, T for traditional technologies। हमारे यहाँ राजस्थान में बहुत सारी ट्रेडिशनल टेक्नोलॉजीज हैं, भावड़ी है, जोड़ है, नाका है, टाका है, ये सारी के सारी जो ऐसी, क्योंकि राजस्थान में बरसात बहुत कम होती है और हम ये जानते हैं कि पानी को कैसे बचाया जा सकता है, तो ये ट्रेडिशनल टेक्नोलॉजी काम में लेनी चाहिए। ई स्टैंड फॉर एजुकेट द पीपल, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। जब तक हम लोगों को पता ही नहीं है कि पानी की शॉर्टेज होने वाली है या पानी की क्या इंपॉर्टेंस है, व्हाट इज द इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ वाटर, लोगों को पता नहीं है, तो हमको ज्यादा से ज्यादा एजुकेट करना चाहिए लोगों को। और आर स्टैंड फॉर रिसाइकल एंड रीयूज, आर के लिए। और सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट ये है कि हमको वी हैव टू फॉलो द गांधीयन फिलॉसफी to save the plants and the animals and particularly by the non-violence। सोसाइटी के लिए भी एप्लीकेबल है, ये देशों के लिए भी एप्लीकेबल है। पर्यावरण को बचाना है तो हमको अहिंसा का मार्ग अपनाना पड़ेगा, ये जरूरी है। और कई सालों पहले गांधी जी ने ये कहा था, और आज के जो साइंटिस्ट वो भी एक वर्ड दे रहे हैं, वो है बायो डेमोक्रेसी। व्हाट इज बायो डेमोक्रेसी? डेमोक्रेसी तो हम जानते हैं ह्यूमन बींग्स का। इन डेमोक्रेसी, इंडिया इज ए डेमोक्रेटिक कंट्री एंड वी हैव द राइट ऑफ द सिटीजन्स। हमको क्या करना चाहिए, हम फ्रीडम है, डेमोक्रेटिक कंट्री है, लेकिन ये डेमोक्रेसी इज नॉट ओनली मेड फॉर द ह्यूमन बींग्स, इट इज ऑल्सो मेड फॉर द एनिमल्स ऑल्सो, इट इज ऑल्सो मेड फॉर द प्लांट्स ऑल्सो, बिकॉज दे हैव ऑल्सो राइट टू ग्रो एंड टू सर्वाइव ऑन दिस पर्टिकुलर अर्थ। क्योंकि इनके भी उनका भी एक अधिकार है। कोई जिससे कोई मिट्टी का कण है, उसका भी अधिकार है रहने का, बिकॉज दैट इज ऑल्सो ए पार्ट ऑफ द इकोसिस्टम। सो इकोसिस्टम के जितने भी पार्ट हैं, वेदर लिविंग और नॉन लिविंग, सबको अधिकार है उनको जो इस धरती के ऊपर रहने का। और ये एथिक्स जो है और ये जो एजुकेशन है, ये सब तक पहुंचना चाहिए, तभी हम इसको बचा सकते हैं। और आपने मुझे ये मौका दिया कुछ स्लाइड शेयर करने का, कुछ बातें करने का, मैं बहुत बहुत आपका धन्यवाद करना चाहता हूँ। और फिर कभी आपसे मिलने का मौका मिलेगा, जरूर मैं आपके पास आऊँगा। थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर दिस वंडरफुल सेमिनार that you invited me here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for such a wonderful deliberation for the students. Definitely, students have got lots of things from your lecture today, and they will be benefited a lot. Last week, we had conducted a workshop, and all the students were prepared so many environmental related models, and this lecture is very much beneficial for them, because they have already ponder their brains on the environmental related issues. After that, they have got such a beautiful presentation from you, and I am really thankful to you, sir. You have given the things which you have communicated with the students. It's a really wonderful thing, sir. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Nice.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Now, I would ask Dr. O.P. Minaji, the coordinator of this program. So, what is the next in this program? Just let me know. So, accordingly, I will proceed further. Dr. O.P. Minaji.
Sir, Professor M.K. Pandit, sir, has joined. So, I request you, sir, please introduce.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. O.P. Minaji. So, the entire house, I would like to introduce Dr. Manoj Panditji, and it's a great honor for all of us that he has joined us. Actually, he is the former professor of geology, University of Rajasthan, and principal of Maharaja College, Jaipur. and he has done his PhD in long back in 1985, and he is a very experienced person. And basically, if I want to tell about him, he has a number of professional achievements is there in the list, and he was head of the department during 1994 to 1997, then again 2006 to 2009, and again in 2016 he was principal of Maharaja College during 2014 to 2016. He was the director of Center for Water Management and Research from 2013 to 2014, and he was vice principal of Maharaja College during 1919 to 2000, and then 2005 to 2006, and in 2013 itself. So a number of achievements is also listed. He participated in 26th and 34th Indian scientific expeditions of Antarctica, and he was the associate editor. He is the associate editor of Journal of Asia Earth Science. He is the member of Rajasthan State Expert Committee for Environmental Appraisal. He is the member of Exploration and Research Advisory Committee, Atomic Minerals, Directorate for Atomic Minerals Research, Government of India. He is the recipient of the Rajasthan Gaurav Award in 2015. And he has done Excellence in Research Award by the University of Rajasthan 2007. He has achieved such a beautiful things. International Fellowship Award, he has got TWAS South Cooperation Fellowship in 1996-97, CNPQ from Brazil as a visiting scientist in 2000 to 2002, in 2013 also, and DFG Germany he has visited in, he has this research award he has received in 2006 itself. And Norwegian Geological Survey, he visiting scientist during 2000, 2003 and 2005. So DST South Africa, he was the International Cooperation Program, China University of Geosciences, Paul Sabatier University. Other international research collaboration he has done with USA, University of Florida, and Colorado State University, Switzerland, Technical University of Southern Switzerland, Australia, University of Western Australia, Japan, Osaka City University, and he has visited a number of countries like England, Scotland, Mauritius, Portugal, Austria, Italy, New Zealand, Spain, Denmark, Argentina, Ethiopia, Thailand, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. So we are very grateful that we have such a wonderful person with us, and he is such an experienced person, and it will be very beneficial for all of us. Students will enjoy his session, and I request Dr. M.K. Panditji to start his session and give the benefits to our students, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Charasia, for such a wonderful introduction. I was happy to hear all these things, that all the nice things that you were speaking about me. But at the same time, also you have made me a little nervous because you have raised the bar very high for me. And the other thing is that I'm sharing this platform with Professor Keshi Sharma. He told me that I'm his friend, but actually I'm one of his admirers. So it's a privilege and honor for me to be here talking to you and sharing the same platform as Professor Keshi Sharma. For this, I would really like to thank all of you. Like to share my presentation here. Always little issue or these. So is it visible, the slides?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So first of all, the organizers of this event, Professor S.V. Sharma, the dynamic leader of this institute, and his and a very energetic team members, O.P. Meena ji, Chaurasia ji, and all other members and participants. It's a privilege and honor both for me to be here sharing with you some of my thoughts, what we have seen, what we have observed about this very, very important issue that is really threatening our own survival and the existence. So when we talk about the climate change, we talk about the previous presentation, Professor Keshi Sharma very nicely elaborated all these issues related to the ecosystem and the other problems that we are facing and what can be done. So we talk a lot about the awareness. I think sometimes I feel that we are a very strange kind of a society. That every year we have these traffic awareness programs conducted by the traffic for the people who are driving vehicles with valid license. So if you're a license holder, you should be aware of all the traffic rules, but still we have to make them aware again and again. And despite the fact that these traffic rules are basically for our own safety. So that's something. But I'm very happy that this institute is not only working in awareness, but actually going one step ahead. As I was told, and I know that this workshop, creative workshop, was organized, and that is the more important thing. After the awareness, there is a need for action. So I really appreciate, and I'm really very happy to see that you're not only making people aware, but also going one step ahead. That what should be the next. So this is what we are. This is what I'm going to talk to you about for the next 45-50 minutes. About the climate change and global warming, but from a larger or bigger dimension or bigger canvas. That's the thing. Again, when you talk about something, especially जो scientists होते हैं बड़े हर एक बात को अपने अंदाज से कहने की कोशिश करते हैं. और स्टैटिस्टिक्स खास तौर से जब भी हम बात करते हैं ऐसे इस तरह की चीजों की, क्लाइमेट चेंज की बात करते हैं, ग्लोबल वार्मिंग की बात करते हैं, तो we always talk about figures and numbers. And then these numbers and figures have to be conveyed or displayed in terms of statistical values. And this statistics is basically how that you can decide what you want to say, and then you can adjust your parameters. So I'm talking about this climate change on a much larger canvas, because being an earth scientist, I talk on about the globe or the earth as a whole. So this picture is you must have seen this picture very often. और इसके नीचे लिखा होता है Save Mother Earth. तो प्रश्न ये आता है कि what is the meaning of Save Mother Earth? We in our society, in our culture, we have always seen that it is mothers who save the children, but you never see the other way, that children saving the mother is not a very common phenomenon. So, and the second thing is, does the Mother Earth really need to be saved? क्या वाकई में मदर अर्थ को हमारे द्वारा रक्षा की आवश्यकता है? और आर वी केपेबल टू सेव इट? हम लोग में क्या इतनी सामर्थ्य, इतनी शक्ति, इतनी विद्वता, इतना ज्ञान है कि हम माइटी नेचर या मदर अर्थ को बचा सकें? I think this whole thing is put in a wrong perspective and wrong context. We have to save ourselves. Mother Earth doesn't need to be saved. Mother Earth is strong enough, capable enough. It originated, it came into existence under very, very difficult conditions. आप लोग सब जानते हैं कि it started as a very, very hot gaseous mass. उसके बाद धीरे-धीरे over a period of so many billions of years, it has come to this current state. Even today, the core of the earth, at the center of the earth, the temperatures are very high. They're more than 5,000 degrees Celsius, estimated, of course. So Mother Earth doesn't need any effort from us. We have to save ourselves. That's important. Another term that we all are very familiar with is environmental management. So अगेन हम लोग शायद अपने आप के हमें कुछ गलतफहमी हुई अपने बारे में कि हम लोग सब कुछ करने में सक्षम है. So we are able to manage the environment. I think we should need a proper terminology. Of course, जब हम बात करते हैं environmental management की, जब इसको define किया जाता है, तो it is basically what does it mean is managing the acts that affect the environment. So technically, it is managing ourselves, not the environment. We have to manage our acts. And in this context, last many years, in fact, many years, and to be precise, since the 1950s, there's certain people started becoming aware something wrong is happening around us. Something wrong is happening on a bit larger scale. And these terms like global warming, greenhouse gases, fossil fuels, carbon dioxide, ice core records. Ice core record is a later thing. Climate change, of course, it was introduced much later. So all these, we started hearing these things, these terminologies started coming into our ears. But if you relate it, I think it goes back to the era of industrialization in Europe. That is the late 17th century or beginning of the 18th century, when the whole Europe transformed into industrial zone, and lot of energy consumption started taking place. A lot of these natural resources were exploited, and the effect of this activity, which that time nobody really gave a proper thought, started appearing after 150 years, and that was a starting point. And it was realized that this problem is not related to one particular area, one particular place, one particular country. It is a global problem. And another thing is that it is not. It is like the source could be somewhere else, and the impact would be far away, even thousands of kilometers away. So you cannot just isolate yourself saying that it's none of your problem. I'm putting fire to my house. Why are you worried? But if you put a fire to your house, your neighbor has equal worries. So this was in the later part of the last century, beginning in 1950s. A global thinking started working on this aspect, that there's something wrong is happening, and this wrong is implicated in terms of rise in the temperatures that people started feeling, and we started calling it this global warming. And eventually, after a few decades, we suddenly started talking about climate change, maybe technically in the same way as synonym to global warming. Of course, these are two different things. So when we talk about climate change, when we refer to climate change, it looks like it is something unexpected and unnatural phenomena. कि अच्छा ये तो ऐसा है जो होना नहीं चाहिए और हो रहा है. So इसकी implication ये आती है कि climate is a static phenomena. Climate जो है वैसा ही रहता है, ये कभी change नहीं होता है. It's not dynamic. But there are things so let's see whether climate is a static or a dynamic phenomena. It is a natural phenomena, of course. So let's first talk about what happened to global warming, and then it became climate change. So let's start with the basics. Global warming actually होता क्या है? So it is the average temperature rise on the Earth's surface, which includes the surface of the Earth, the atmosphere, and the oceans. Atmosphere, of course, atmosphere is quite thick. So जो atmosphere का वो part जो कि Earth surface के साथ में contact में रहता है, वो हिस्सा, जमीन का हिस्सा और पानी का हिस्सा, ये सब इनमें जो average increase over a period of time. It doesn't mean कि temperature is rising at every spot. Quite likely कुछ जगह पे temperature कम हो रहा है और कुछ जगह पे बढ़ रहा है, लेकिन हम average जब देखते हैं तो average temperature बढ़ रहा है. So that's what we call global warming. It is a phenomena. It is also a process. So it is global warming. उस process को भी बोलते हैं जिसकी वजह से temperature जो कि air atmosphere और इसमें जो surface पे जो temperature बढ़ रहा है because of these greenhouse gases, उनकी वजह से जो टेम्परेचर बढ़ रहा है उस प्रोसेस को भी कहते हैं. और as I said earlier that lately in last couple of decades we have started using this term interchangeably with climate change, which means changes in the global weather patterns, but largely referring to a rise in mean global temperatures. Again, there are two things. One is a weather and one is a climate. Many times I've seen, of course, you're all knowledgeable people, but I've seen at certain points, sometimes people get confused about these two terms. So when you talk about weather is जिसको कहते हैं कि तात्कालिक या specific spatial and temporal issue. For a particular, it refers to certain conditions, certain physical conditions like temperature, air pressure, humidity, wind speed, rainfall at a given point for a particular region. And so weather at one point may not be may be completely different the weather in other part. और बहुत बड़ा simple example ये कि हमारा जो पृथ्वी है उसके जो दो पार्ट हैं, अब northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. तो जब नॉर्थ में गर्मी होती है तो साउथ में सर्दी होती है, और जब साउथ में गर्मी होती है तो नॉर्थ में सर्दी होती है. But climate is a more broad-based term which defines average weather elements of a particular region. So, for example, we have like I'm sitting in Jaipur, so I can say that Jaipur weather is cold here, but Jaipur climate is not cold. It is arid to semi-arid. So that's because it doesn't mean जब मैं बात करता हूँ कि ये area semi-arid है, it doesn't mean कि यहाँ बरसात होती नहीं है. लेकिन अगर हम overall annual system को देखें तो उसमें उसके हिसाब से बरसात बहुत कम होती है. एक जर्मन साइंटिस्ट हुआ करते थे व्लादिमीर कोपेन, जिन्होंने बहुत ब्रॉड कैटेगरीज बनाई थी क्लाइमेट की. सो ट्रॉपिकल, ड्राई, मॉडरेट, कॉन्टिनेंटल, पोलर क्लाइमेट. उन्होंने ये अलग अलग तरह के क्लाइमेट जोन्स बताए. क्लाइमेट जो है, और इन जोन्स में एक खास बात यह है कि जो क्लाइमेट है, जो पृथ्वी के संदर्भ में बात करते हैं तो क्लाइमेट इज ऑलवेज कंट्रोल्ड बाय द लैटिट्यूड. जो इक्वेटर का जो क्लाइमेट है, we have got a hot and humid temperature climate at the equator, and as we go up or down towards south or north, the temperatures start going down, and the polar regions are the coldest parts of the earth. Other thing is, the one more thing that is controlling the climate is also the altitude, the elevation or the height. That's irrespective of the latitude. तो जैसे हम जो हमारा क्षेत्र है, we are basically India has a generally tropical climate, but as we go to the Himalayan region, because of the altitude, it has a cold climate. So when we talk about climate, when we talk about the climate change, तो जब climate change की बात करते हैं तो climate change को उस रेफर में we talk about it in the reference that change in the climatic conditions over decades or longer period, when the climate changes from one particular conditions to another condition. Whereas we talk about global warming is a change in the climatic conditions in context of the average increase in the Earth's temperature. जबकि क्लाइमेट चेंज अगर हम इसको इंडिपेंडेंटली अगर देखें तो क्लाइमेट चेंज दोनों तरह से हो सकता है. क्लाइमेट चेंज में टेम्परेचर्स कम भी हो सकते हैं, टेम्परेचर ज्यादा भी हो सकते हैं. लेकिन जो हमारी समस्या है, दैट्स नॉट अबाउट द क्लाइमेट चेंज. दैट्स व्हाट आई वांटेड टू एम्फसाइज, दैट क्लाइमेट चेंज इज अ नेचुरल फिनोमेना. It has happened. It will happen in the. It has happened in the past. It will happen in the future also. But what the problem is that it is the sudden change or abrupt change in the climate. At this sudden, so of course, suddenly it doesn't mean overnight. It means it over a period of few years rather than centuries or thousands of years. So how does it work? So this is an example here. Since I'm a geologist and this is also my area, so I'll like to tell you that the climate is dynamic and changing. Only thing is what scale we are looking at. अगर हम बात करते हैं 100 साल की 200 साल की तो हमारे एक अलग चीज नजर आती है। फिर हम बात करते हैं 5000 साल की, 1 लाख साल की, 1 करोड़ साल की, तो स्थिति भिन्न हो जाती है। So this is an example where we had this about 200 million years back, how the earth looked like, and I'd like to show you this if possible. That this is at one time about 550 million years ago from now. This is the configuration of all the continents and the ocean, and this whole of this supercontinent was called Gondwana, और इस गोंडवाना में ये हमारी स्थिति थी भारतवर्ष की। और जो भारतवर्ष की लोकेशन थी, it was in the southern hemisphere and very close to the Antarctica, very close to the South Pole. So the whole that temperature, that climate was completely different that time. And then it shifted, it started moving, and today we are somewhere here, crossing the equator. So what does it mean? That the climate of the Indian climate has changed over a period of last 500 million years. But again, as I said, it is a scale. Or during this time, the Himalayas also started rising. In last few million years, Himalayas started rising. And as I told you, that altitude also plays an important role. So our worry is not about the climate change, our concern is about the abrupt climate change, the unexpected rate of climate change. That is a concern. और उसमें उसकी प्रॉब्लम यह है कि अगर क्लाइमेट चेंज बहुत ही अपनी धीमी गति से होता है, तो जो स्पीशीज हैं उनको एडजस्ट होने का अवसर मिलता है. They can adjust to the changing conditions. But if it is abrupt, then they don't have a chance, and many of the species die. And this has happened in the past, where we also have the periods of mass extinction, जिसको बोलते हैं. The world climate changed suddenly because of some catastrophe. उस टाइम हम लोग तो थे नहीं, लेकिन ऐसी नेचुरल फिनोमेना हुए जिसकी वजह से पूरे के पूरे अर्थ का जो क्लाइमेट था वो बदल गया. और इसका जो recent example है, that is about 65 million years back, when we had the huge volcanic eruptions and a very big meteor impact that wiped out a lot of these species from the surface of the earth. So this abrupt climate change may affect the entire world or just a small region. So let's see what are these. This is a very vague correlation between the two, weather and the climate. Weather is all these fluctuations that you can see. And when you generalize these fluctuations into a smooth curve, it becomes a climate. So climate is the overall average conditions, whereas weather is variable and for that particular moment. So हम लोग जब भी बात करते हैं, we always talk about weather forecast. We never talk about the climate forecast. So when we talk about how the climate has moved, shifted, or changed during the past, so how back should we go? What all these climate models that we see, these are generally related to only last 200 to 300 years. But the Earth formed 4.6 billion years from now, and the climate the early atmosphere of the Earth was without oxygen. It had a lot of toxic gases, and in fact, oxygen came much later into the atmosphere. We recently worked out, and we found that it was about 2.8 billion years from now that oxygen, actually free oxygen to available thi, but in combined form, like it was available as CO2, it was available as H2O, but free oxygen into the atmosphere appeared first time around 2.8 billion years from now. And that too, that too because of this photosynthesis of plants. So सबसे पहले plants आए oceans में या water में, उसके बाद उनकी photosynthesis से oxygen आई, और उसके बाद में फिर continental areas में life आई. And then in the past, the Earth has also undergone several cycles of climate change. We have periods when it was completely cold and almost covered by snow. These are called the glacial periods. And then we had the interglacial periods between the two periods. This is kind of a so this curve will give you some idea about how the average surface temperatures have changed in the past 4 billion years almost. So starting from 3.9 or 4 billion years from now, and this is the present day. So these are not the absolute temperatures, but these only indicate this is a normal average, and this is higher and these are lower. So you can see initially it cooled down and then went up and cooled down and went up. So it's been very, very cyclic. It was not static even much before the human life appeared and much before the industrial era. And in a very long term, if you see, of course, again, as I said, there's a matter of always a scale that actually it is this phase, jo hamari present phase hai, that is about cooling. So this is another something about this, what has happened in the last 1 billion years. And these all blue boxes, they indicate the periods of glacial activity, which means periods of cold conditions, और जिसको हम ice age बोलते हैं जियोलॉजी की भाषा में. और जो last ice age थी, वो बहुत ही ज़्यादा पुरानी नहीं है, सिर्फ 18,000 साल पहले करीब last ice age खत्म हुई है आज की तारीख से. उससे पहले का पीरियड जो था, वो completely cold conditions का था. So again, when you look at the 800,000 years और 8 लाख साल का ये जो डेटा देखते हैं टेम्परेचर्स का, तो वो उनमें भी आपको बहुत ही एक पैटर्न नजर आता है, साइक्लिक पैटर्न. It goes up and down. Everything is, of course, it's not rhythm बदलती रहती है, लेकिन its cyclicity is maintained. It will reach a peak and then go down and go up and down again. This is how it has happened in last 800,000 years या पिछले 8 लाख साल का जो स्तर है. और नजदीक आ जाएं, अगर पिछले 18,000 साल का अगर हम देखते हैं, तो 18,000 साल में स्थिति भिन्न है. You can see the temperature started rising. As I told you, that last ice age was at this point. It was about 18,000 years back. Entire Earth was covered by ice. It was very cold time, and then it started increasing. The surface started increasing gradually, and even there was short dip about 150 years from now, and then it started rising again. So these are the trends. So as I said, कि जो statistics है, वो आप जिस तरह से इसको चाहें manipulate कर सकते हैं, जिस तरह से इसको आप interpret कर सकते हैं. अगर मैं स्केल बहुत बड़ा कर देता हूं तो चीजें अलग हो जाती है, स्केल छोटा कर देता हूं तो चीज अलग हो जाती है. और बहुत छोटा सा एग्जांपल ये कि अगर मैं सिंगल डे की बात करूं, सुबह 6 बजे, आज की तारीख में अगर बात की जाए, सुबह 6 बजे यहाँ का टेम्परेचर था 16 डिग्री और दोपहर को 3 बजे होगा 31 डिग्री. इसका मतलब ये है कि 10 घंटे में या 9 घंटे के अंदर टेम्परेचर जो है 100% बढ़ गया. तो बड़ी अजीब सी कहने सुनने में बड़ी अजीब सी बात है, लेकिन मुझे मालूम है कि शाम को फिर कम ठंडा हो जाएगा और अगले दिन फिर ऐसा बढ़ जाएगा. दिस इज साइक्लिसिटी. सो नाउ अब ये साइक्लिसिटी जो है ये किस स्केल तक जा सकती है? ये बहुत लंबे स्केल तक भी जा सकती है. एंड इफ यू लुक एट दिस अर्थ हैज गॉट सर्टेन पैरामीटर्स, सर्टेन फिनोमेना दैट रिपीट देमसेल्व्स इन टाइम. अब ये जो पैरामीटर्स हैं, इसमें सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है एक्सेंट्रिसिटी ऑफ द अर्थ. रोटेशन, इसका जो ऑर्बिट है, हम जानते हैं कि जो पृथ्वी है हमारी, वो सूर्य के चारों तरफ चक्कर काटती है और एक पूरा चक्कर काटने में 1 साल लग जाता है. और ये जो इसके जो ऑर्बिट है, ये सर्कुलर नहीं होकर ये एक्सेंट्रिक है. और इसकी जो एक्सेंट्रिसिटी है ये बदलती रहती है. ये दो एक्सट्रीम कंडीशंस है और इनका जो इसका जो क्रम है ये लगभग 1 लाख साल का है. और हम जानते हैं कि हमारे को पृथ्वी जब वार्मिंग की बात कर रहे हैं तो सन का एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रोल है इसमें. तो पृथ्वी की जो दूरी है सूर्य से, उसका बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट फर्क पड़ता है. सो एवरी 100,000 years थिंग्स विल चेंज. एंड देन वी नो दैट द अर्थ इज नॉट स्ट्रेट. इसकी जो एक्सिस है वो लगभग 23.5 डिग्री पे झुकी हुई है, और ये जो झुकाव है ये भी हर 41,000 साल में बदल जाता है, कम से ज्यादा होता है, 21 से लेकर 24.5 डिग्री तक का इसमें अंतर आ जाता है। और उसके अलावा जो अर्थ की जो एक्सिस का जो रोटेशन है, ये बहुत स्मूथ नहीं, क्योंकि कई बार ये थोड़ा सा हो जाता है, जिसको कहते हैं वॉबल कहते हैं। आप शायद बचपन में आपने सब लोगों ने अगर लट्टू चलाया हो, तुम देखते हो ये लट्टू में जो शुरू में जो एनर्जी होती है उसकी वजह से लट्टू गोल गोल बहुत स्मूथ घूमता रहता है और बिल्कुल खड़ा रहता है। धीरे धीरे वो टेढ़ा मेढ़ा होने लगता है और गिरने लगता है, तो दिस इज कॉल्ड द वॉबल। तो अर्थ के रोटेशन में कई बार वॉबल आता है, एंड दिस वॉबल हैपेंस एवरी 23,000 ईयर्स। सो इनका जो क्यूमुलेटिव इफेक्ट है, दैट इज there is certain kind of cyclicity on in terms of the temperatures received or the intensity of sun received on the surface of the earth. But when you look at the sun, it provides a constant source of energy to this to the earth, and a lot of this sunlight is reflected back into the atmosphere from the surface, and then some of this is thrown back onto the surface. So जब अर्थ के एटमॉस्फेयर की बात करते हैं, तो अर्थ का जो एक्सपेक्टेड जो टेम्परेचर है, इट इज 33 डिग्रीज मोर देन इट इज एक्सपेक्टेड। और इस कैलकुलेटर अगर हम कैलकुलेट करके देखें, जितना अर्थ पे का जो इंसिडेंस आता है सनराइज का और जितना रिफ्लेक्ट होता है, उसको कैलकुलेट करके देखें, उस हिसाब से जो अर्थ का टेम्परेचर है वो 33 डिग्री ज्यादा है, which means there's something else is happening. And this happens because of these certain gases that are in the atmosphere, like water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, and they trap this infrared radiation and they send it back to the surface of the earth. So, and this is called the greenhouse effect, or the greenhouse, जिसको हम greenhouse gases कहते हैं। और कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड जो कि बहुत important greenhouse gas है, so if it is more in the atmosphere, what does it mean? That the greenhouse effect will be more. And as Professor Keshi Sharma in last talk mentioned about the increase in the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which is more than 400 ppm. To look at, if you compare this 400 ppm to 21% oxygen, this negligible. 400 ppm का मतलब ये हुआ कि 10 लाख कणों में से सिर्फ 415 या 417, 18, 20 कण जो है वो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड के हैं। बाकी तो अन्य गैसें हैं, जिसमें मुख्यतः नाइट्रोजन है 78% और ऑक्सीजन है 21%। तो देयर इज नो कंपैरिजन। 21% oxygen, which is very important for us, and only 415 ppm carbon dioxide. But the problem and the issue is the rate of increase of carbon dioxide. About 150 years back, 200 years back, it was only 270 ppm. 270 ppm से 415 ppm 200 साल के अंदर हो जाना। जबकि हम पृथ्वी की जो बात करते हैं, तो वो जो उसका स्केल उसका बहुत बड़ा है, जहाँ पे कि बहुत हर चीज जो इतनी छोटी होती है कि हम अपने पूरे जीवन काल में महसूस ही नहीं कर पाते। जितने पहाड़ हमारे चारों तरफ है, ये सब हर साल घिसते रहते हैं, लेकिन और जो नदियां हैं वो अपना कोर्स बदलती रहती हैं, लेकिन हम उसको महसूस नहीं कर पाते हैं, क्योंकि उसका रेट बहुत कम होता है। उस संदर्भ में कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड का जो इंक्रीज है, द रेट इज वेरी हाई, एंड दैट इज वरिंग। सो दिस इज resulted in higher amount of carbon dioxide and higher amount of this greenhouse gases and increased greenhouse effect, which means more temperature being retained at the surface of the earth. So when we found this, there is something related, some relation between carbon dioxide and the temperatures. So when a comparison was made, so this is the curve which shows the level of carbon dioxide, and this is the average temperatures. You can see they show very good correspondence with the time. So इतना वैज्ञानिकों के लिए इतना काफी है कि कोई चीज जो है दोनों चीजों में एक बहुत गहरा संबंध है, तो ये दोनों चीजें आपस में जुड़ी हुई हैं। और अगर टेम्परेचर राइज जो है, this is one of the major issues about the temperature rise is because of the addition of CO2 in the atmosphere. When you look at the more recent data, it's only last about 200 years. So 1880 to this is only up to 2010, but you can so here you can see there's a more simple straight line curve. So this is a very gradual increase till till the mid of the last century, and then suddenly the rise is abrupt and very high. So that's a problem of concern. How it has changed, and this can be directly related to this industrial revolution and consumption of energy and destruction of forest. क्योंकि हमारा जो plants हैं, they are very important CO2 absorbers. So they take CO2 and they release oxygen. अगर हमने उन्हीं को खत्म कर दिया, तो एक तो वो प्रोसेस खत्म कर दिया, दूसरा हमने CO2 का लेवल, CO2 जो एटमॉस्फेयर छोड़ने का को बढ़ा दिया, तो इसका असर जो है डबल हो जाता है. And here you can see this very sharp increase. अगर हम इसको 1000 years के रेफरेंस से देखते हैं, तो पिछले 1000 साल का जो डेटा है लगभग स्ट्रेट लाइन है, ऊपर नीचे थोड़ा सा दिख सकता है, लेकिन पिछले 100 साल में 200 एकदम से बढ़ गया. So when we come to this, there are certain things, of course, scientists never agree on something. There's always disagreement. लेकिन एक basic factor के बारे में agreement ये है कि there is about climate change. There's no doubt about it, and it is also it is agreed that the carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases, they are responsible for the temperature rises, and then human activity has significantly contributed. And the average global temperatures since 1906 have gone by more than 1.3 degrees Fahrenheit. And in the last 50 years, more than 0.6 degrees centigrade. So which means that it's if you reduce the time, the temperature rises higher. Or the IPCC that Dr. Sharma also mentioned in his talk, that it is an intergovernmental panel on climate change, which is a UN body, and you can see the entire world is so concerned about this particular aspect. कि एक पूरा का पूरा पैनल है जो कि साइंटिस्ट का पैनल है जो उस पर काम करता है, and they identified, of course, or experience also, that in this century जो अभी 2022 चल रहा है, पिछले 20 सालों में सबसे ज्यादा hot years जो हमने महसूस किए हैं पिछले 2 साल के मुकाबले में. So this clarity about it. Only issue is about the projections of how about future projections. So what will happen in the future. So उसमें हर एक अपने parameters हैं और अपना use है. तो जब हम बात करते हैं climate change modeling की, जब ये जो अक्सर हम पढ़ते हैं, सुनते हैं, देखते हैं कि आने वाले 2050 तक विश्व का जो है एवरेज टेम्परेचर इतना होगा, 2100 में इतना तक बढ़ जाएगा. तो ये डेटा, ये सब चीजें, ये प्रेडिक्शंस किसी ज्योतिष पे आधारित नहीं है, बल्कि ये डेटा पे आधारित है. और डेटा हम लोग जानते हैं कि अगर हमारे पास पास्ट का डेटा, अगर हमारे पास बहुत अच्छा डेटा है, तो पास्ट के डेटा से हम प्रेजेंट तक, पास्ट से अभी पिछले 100 सालों में, 200 साल में, 500 साल में क्या हुआ, और अगर उसको प्रोजेक्ट करके देखें तो हम देख सकते हैं कि आगे आने वाले 50 साल में क्या हो सकता है. तो उसके लिए महत्वपूर्ण बात है कि वी नीड अ डेटा फॉर द पास्ट. But unfortunate part in this case is that the atmosphere is dynamic, which means जो इस समय का जो वायुमंडल है वो इस समय ही रहेगा, उसके बाद 1 घंटे बाद वो तकनीकी रूप से बदल जाएगा. तो आज से 100 साल पहले का वायुमंडल कैसा था, 200 साल पहले कैसा था, 500 साल पहले कैसा था, उसकी जानकारी कहाँ से मिलेगी, कैसे मिलेगी. तो उससे पहले हम कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट जो इसके पैरामीटर्स हैं जो हम क्लाइमेट चेंज मॉडलिंग के लिए यूज करते हैं, वो है हमारा जो डेटा आता है वो आता है वाटर से. वाटर मीन्स हियर आई एम टॉकिंग वाटर एज अ कंपाउंड H2O, जो कि आइस फॉर्म में भी हो सकता है, पानी की फॉर्म में भी होता है और गैसेस फॉर्म में भी होता है. इट इज अ केमिकल सिस्टम. सिंस यू आर ऑल, आई एम टोल्ड दैट यू आर ऑल फ्रॉम अ साइंस बैकग्राउंड, बट इवन अदरवाइज आल्सो एवरीबॉडी नोज दैट वाटर इज H2O, two atoms of hydrogen combining with one atom of oxygen to form one molecule of hydrogen, this water. लेकिन जब हाइड्रोजन और ऑक्सीजन की बात करते हैं तो उनके 3 आइसोटोप्स होते हैं दोनों के. दीज आर स्टेबल आइसोटोप्स. 2 तरह के आइसोटोप्स होते हैं, उस पर चर्चा कभी और कर सकते हैं. लेकिन ये है कि जो स्टेबल आइसोटोप्स होते हैं उनका रेशियो फिक्स रहता है. जो अनस्टेबल होते हैं वो पेरेंट आइसोटोप धीरे धीरे कालांतर में वो डॉटर आइसोटोप में कन्वर्ट हो जाता है. और विच मीन्स अनदर one element is converted into another element. For example, this uranium is converted into lead. But in case of stable isotopes, the ratios remain constant. तो हाइड्रोजन के तीन वो होते हैं और इनमें फर्क जो होता है उनके मास में फर्क होता है. उनमें जो प्रोटॉन्स की संख्या बराबर होती है और न्यूट्रॉन, इसमें न्यूट्रॉन की संख्या में परिवर्तन आता है। तो इसका मतलब क्या हुआ, केमिकल रिएक्शन जो होती है वो इलेक्ट्रॉन्स के द्वारा होती है, इलेक्ट्रॉन्स की संख्या इनकी सबकी बराबर होती है। इसका मतलब केमिकल रिएक्शन में जो आइसोटोप्स एक ही तरह से बिहेव करते हैं पर उनके मास में अंतर होता है। तो हाइड्रोजन के 3 आइसोटोप्स होते हैं, मास 1, मास 2 और मास 3, जिनको हाइड्रोजन, ड्यूटेरियम और ट्रिटियम कहते हैं, जिसको हैवी वाटर हम बोलते हैं। हैवी वाटर मींस इट्स अ ड्यूटेरियम ऑक्साइड, ड्यूटेरियम है ऑक्सीजन। एंड अगेन ऑक्सीजन हैज गॉट 3 आइसोटोप्स, ऑक्सीजन 16, ऑक्सीजन 17, ऑक्सीजन 18। और जो कॉमन, सबसे कॉमन है वो है ऑक्सीजन 16, और इसी तरह से हाइड्रोजन में सबसे कॉमन है हाइड्रोजन 1। ऑक्सीजन 16 जो है इसका जो प्रोपोर्शन है दैट इज 99.8%। तो बाकी पॉइंट, और ऑक्सीजन 17 इज मिनिस्क्यूल एंड ऑक्सीजन 18 इज 0.1%। सो वी टेक द रेशियो ऑफ ऑक्सीजन 16 टू ऑक्सीजन 18। सो where do we get the data from? क्योंकि कोई भी साइंटिफिक एक्सपेरिमेंट बिना डेटा के नहीं हो सकता, और इसके लिए हमें डेटा चाहिए, उस पर्टिकुलर समय का डेटा चाहिए, जो एक पर्टिकुलर काल का डेटा चाहिए, और उसके लिए हमें जाना पड़ता है अंटार्कटिक। एंड आई वुड लाइक टू शेयर दैट आई हैड द प्रिविलेज ऑफ बीइंग पार्ट ऑफ दिस एक्सरसाइज व्हाट वी हैव बीन डूइंग ऑन द क्लाइमेट चेंज मॉडलिंग and collecting the data, in fact. So as we all know that Antarctic is icy continent and the driest and the coldest part of the earth. So what does it mean? That the annual snowfall is very minimum, and since this is Antarctic here, I can show you. ये Antarctic है पूरा का पूरा, जिसके चारों तरफ समुद्र है, और इस सारा जो white दिख रहा है, this is all ice covered, and this is the South Pole. और ये जो एरिया है, बीच का एरिया, इसमें लगभग 4.5 किलोमीटर की थिकनेस की आइस है, जो कि परमानेंटली जमी रहती है, और हर साल मुश्किल से कुछ सेंटीमीटर वहां पे स्नोफॉल होता है। तो इसका एक एडवांटेज ये है कि वहां बर्फ जमती जरूर है हर साल, बहुत ही मामूली सी, जो कि दबने के बाद कुछ मिलीमीटर मोटाई की होती है, लेकिन वो पिघलती नहीं है। So this is what we have utilized, and we drill the ice cores from that particular region. और ये आइस जो है, इसमें काफी सारी चीजें, काफी सारी जानकारी उस काल की है, इसमें समाहित होती, जिस समय में ये आइस ये इसमें आसमान से यहाँ पे ये स्नोफॉल के रूप में यहाँ गिरी थी। सो दिस कुड बी हैंड हेल्ड, दिस कुड बी मैकेनिकल ड्रिलिंग, एंड दिस इज व्हाट वी, जो जिसको कहते हैं आइस कोर, वो इस तरह का उसमें से निकाला जाता है, और फिर एक ड्रिल कोर में से निकाल के उसको इकट्ठा करते हैं, और फिर अगली ड्रिलिंग करते हैं। सो दिस इज हाउ we can drill a long column of ice, and then these ice cores, a very important part is ice cores are stored properly. अगर ये मेल्ट हो गया तो सारा का सारा हमारा जो मेहनत तो बेकार हो जाएगी। So these are stored, वहां पे जहां ड्रिलिंग हो रही है वहां तो कोई इशू नहीं होता। उसके बाद जब इसे जहाज पे लाया जाता है, जो हमारे शिप्स होते हैं, वहां पे इसको -20 डिग्री कंटेनर में इनको रखा जाता है, और उसी -20 डिग्री में इनको लैब तक ट्रांसपोर्ट किया जाता है, ताकि इनमें किसी तरह का अंतर नहीं आए। In the lab, these ice cores are carefully observed, and annual thickness, annual layers are identified, and they're sliced, and this is one of the slices you can see. और इस slice के अंदर आपको बहुत सारे bubbles दिखाई देंगे। These bubbles are very important, or a very important piece of this information, because these are the trapped bubbles of that particular atmosphere, जो कि आज से हजारों साल पुराना atmosphere था, जिस समय ये पर्टिकुलर ये जो आइस का पर्टिकुलर पार्ट था, ये जो बर्फ के रूप में जब नीचे गिरा, तो उसके साथ साथ ये these are analyzed, and we also analyze the ice for oxygen isotope. I don't want to go in details of this procedure, but I can just to give you a very brief, that oxygen 16 is 99.75%, oxygen 17 is negligible, and oxygen 18 is 0.2%. So we use a ratio of these two in our sample, and we compare this ratio with the standard and see what happens. As I told you, what happens that when we are talking about these stable isotopes, so उनका ratio change नहीं होता, पर जब chemical reaction होती है, तो जब especially जब पानी को evaporate किया जाता है, तो पानी H2O की फॉर्म में, वेपर फॉर्म में, H2O जो है वेपर फॉर्म में चला जाता है, लेकिन जो बॉन्ड एनर्जी है उसको ब्रेक करने के लिए, सॉरी, बॉन्ड्स को ब्रेक करने के लिए एनर्जी चाहिए, तो जो बॉन्ड्स O16 की होती हैं, जो कि कंपेरेटिवली जिनको ब्रेक करने के लिए कम शक्ति चाहिए होती है, वो पहले ब्रेक होती हैं। बेसिक मतलब ये है कि जो पानी है उसमें से जो वेपर बनती है उसमें O16 की मात्रा ज्यादा होती है और O18 की मात्रा कम होती है। और जब प्रेसिपिटेशन होता है तो इसका उल्टा होता है, जो प्रेसिपिटेशन होगा उसमें O18 ज्यादा आएगा और O16 कम आएगा। इसी फिनोमेना को यूज करके जब देखा तो we have found that the ratio between oxygen 18 to oxygen 16 varies significantly from the water that is collected from the poles and equator. And using this data, we can find a meteoric line जहां से हम बता सकते हैं कि ये जो है ये कौन से तरह का है। ये ऑक्सीजन के रेशियो और ये हाइड्रोजन के रेशियो के हिसाब से ये एक लाइन बनती है। देन वी कैन सी जो सबसे जो कम वैल्यूज की हैं, दीज आर कॉल्ड द पोलर एरियाज में, और जैसे जैसे ट्रॉपिकल एरिया की तरफ बढ़ते हैं वैसे वैसे ये जो रेशियो है ये बढ़ता जाता है। So this delta D, which is a ratio of hydrogen 2 to hydrogen 1 and CO2 levels, जब हमने दोनों को कंपेयर किया तो दोनों में एक बड़ा जो delta D is an indication of change in the temperature, annual change in temperature. इसमें absolute values नहीं आती, लेकिन ये पता लगता है कि temperature बढ़ा है या कम हुआ है, and they show a very nice correspondence. So these are ये तो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड की वैल्यूज है जो हमने उसमें से एटमॉस्फेरिक जो हमने उसमें से सैंपल में से निकाली, और ये वाटर सैंपल्स के जो डेल्टा डी वैल्यूज हैं, सो दे शो वेरी गुड कॉरेस्पॉन्डेंस। एंड व्हेन वी एंड अगेन और इनका जो एंटार्क्टिक आइस कोर में जो हमने वी प्लॉटेड दिस टेम्परेचर वेरिएशंस विद द कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड, they are perfectly matching, as you can see. So there's no doubt that this carbon dioxide increase has been related. So in these cores, that advantages, as I told earlier, that these cores are the natural repositories of the past climate, of the past atmosphere. और ये वो है कि वो जो पुराना एटमॉस्फेयर जो गैसेस थी वो उसमें बंद हो जाती हैं और उसके ऊपर आगे नई आइस जमती चली जाती है, और ये चूंकि ये आइस मेल्ट नहीं होती इसकी वजह से हमको पूरा का पूरा रिकॉर्ड मिल जाता है। तो पिछले लगभग 1,20,000 साल का रिकॉर्ड हमने रिकंस्ट्रक्ट करने की कोशिश की है इन आइस कोर्स से। तो लास्ट का जो डेटा है वो बहुत उसमें उतना रिलायबल नहीं होता, क्योंकि कॉम्पैक्शन बहुत ज्यादा हो जाता है। जैसे जैसे आप आइस का थिकनेस बढ़ती है तो नीचे प्रेशर की वजह से तो उनको सेग्रेगेट करने में हो सकता है कि दिक्कत आ सकती है। लेकिन पिछले लगभग 70,000 साल का जो डेटा है वो काफी, उसका रेजोल्यूशन काफी अच्छा है। यू कैन सी हाउ थिंग्स हैव चेंज्ड, एंड देन यू कैन सी इन लास्ट about 15,000 years there has been change in the increasing trend of the temperatures. So this is what we have observed. We have done observed in the ice cores, and using all the using different parameters, several agencies have worked in this area about global warming projections. As I told earlier कि global warming के बारे में तो कोई issue नहीं है, all the scientists agree. But there is disagreement in terms of the amount of global warming, how much is the expected temperature rise. So it can, they show all these models depending on their parameters. They show a rise up to 4.75 to 2.2 to 4.75 degrees Celsius rise by end of the century. Presuming that no action is taken, and all these projections are based on the present level of these present level of the trends. लेकिन we all know that we are all worried, and अगर इस तरह अगर ये situation आती तो शायद हमारी अपनी existence खत्म हो जाएगी. So all the nations are very particular about it. The UN has this UN has passed a lot of resolutions, and the countries have kind of committed to reduce carbon footprint. There's another huge topic itself. So I hope we'll not reach that situation, and we are wise enough to save our planet and ourselves. Of course, the models at present level they project a bleak future, which will means temperature rise, sea level rise, increased rate of extinction, which we are all observing. and very extreme climate patterns and natural catastrophes. अब अगर हम देखें तो पिछले 10-15 साल में जो natural calamities हैं, उनकी frequency बहुत ज़्यादा हुई और ऐसी वो कुछ ऐसे areas में होने लगी हैं जहाँ पे कि पहले नहीं होते थे. And we will have water scarcity and extreme rainfall conditions. So means this means it will be an environmental chaos, as I can put in this small in simple words. So can we do something? Of course, the reversing the process of climate global warming or climate change is not possible. It has to be, but only thing is we can intervene to reduce the pace of global warming. And if we can do this and achieve this, it will be a big success. And very simple. There are a lot of traditional systems of ours. Already, Professor Sharma has already mentioned about this. उन्होंने एक बात और कही थी कि अवेयरनेस की बात जो थी, मुझे लगता है कि शायद हम लोग जो अर्बन और रूरल का जो डिवाइड है, I find that urbans are more aware and the rurals are more active in terms of saving the environment. This is very strange, but our traditional practices are like that. So वहाँ पे चूंकि traditional practices अभी भी चल रही हैं, so we have to be in harmony with the nature and respect for physical and biological components of the environment. Gandhian philosophy is always relevant, that the nature is enough for our needs but not for our greeds. So we have to. This is what we have to follow. So in very, very last, we say that probably some of this, and scientists say we are nearing the end of another minor interglacial period, and after 2,000 years, looking at the pattern, what we have faced, what we have seen in the past, that there might be a next cycle of global cooling. So till then, probably things will keep warming. So thank you so much, and once again, a very big thank you to all of you for listening, and especially the organizers for giving me this honor and opportunity. And thank you so much. I now hand over to the organizers. RIE, please.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir. Sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Panditji. It was really, I mean, it was very beneficial for the students. Your experiences, all the things are actually it is. Hello.
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Since our students were already they were involved in such type of projects, and in such scenario, if you are discussing such, the experiences which you have shared with them, it is really beneficial for them. Thanks a lot, Professor Pandit. Thank
you so much. Thank you so much. And
थैंक यू सर. आप जब भी हम प्रोग्राम ऑर्गेनाइज करते हैं तो आप अपना टाइम, बिजी शेड्यूल से टाइम निकालते हो. और सर क्योंकि
अच्छा लगता है आप लोगों से मिलकर, अच्छा लगता है.
पूरा लेक्चर जो आपका होता है, आपका जो रिसर्च बेस्ड होता है, क्योंकि आपने जो क्लाइमेट में जो आपने जो रिसर्च किया या अंटार्कटिका में जो आपकी जो विजिट हुई थी, उसको जो आपकी जो भी एक्सपीरियंसेस रहे क्लाइमेट को लेके, तो ये बच्चों के लिए काफी फ्रूटफुल सेशन रहता है. क्लाइमेट के बारे में जानने का काफी मौका मिलता है. डिफरेंट कंडीशंस होती है, कैसे हम हजारों साल पुराने क्लाइमेट और मॉडर्न, और इन दोनों में हम डिफरेंशिएट किस ग्राउंड पे कर सकते हैं, ये सब चीजें अपने आप में यूनिक है सर. तो थैंक यू सर.
Thank you.
Thank you on behalf of our institute. Thank you, sir.
Pleasure for me, and I hope we are able to meet physically sometime. It will be more.
Sure.
All the best and good luck. And I just call off now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay.